The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a spectacle of diversity, with representatives from countless species gathered in a vast, circular hall. Each delegation occupied a segment of the tiered seating, their unique forms casting exotic silhouettes against the ambient light of the chamber's central hologram. Amidst this gathering, Captain Jameson Ward of Earth sat with composed assurance, his keen eyes observing the assembly. Today's agenda was fraught with tension. Rumors of a new threat along the Andromedan border were causing unrest, and alliances were being tested. The council president, a venerable Thalotian known for his deep, resonant voice, called the meeting to order. Esteemed representatives, we are here to address potential breaches of peace in Sector 17. The implications are severe. Let us proceed with the wisdom and caution our predecessors esteemed. One by one, species representatives voiced their concerns, some calling for military mobilization, others advocating for restraint. The mood was increasingly agitated. Captain Ward, representing humanity, finally stood to speak, his voice calm but carrying across the chamber. Fellow delegates, I urge us all to consider diplomatic avenues before rushing to deploy our fleets. History has taught us that once battle lines are drawn, they are not easily erased. A Morathian delegate, his insectoid features bristling with irritation, clicked his mandibles in response. Easy for humans to say, Captain Ward. You reside on the fringe of the disputed zone. What do you know of our losses? Jameson's reply was measured. More than you might assume, Delegate Thrix. We too have frontiers and have felt the sting of intrusion. Yet we know that war often takes more than it gives. Before Thrix could retort, the elder council member, a wise old Zelian named Councillor Varn, raised his hand for silence. His appearance was frail, but his voice still held an authoritative timbre that demanded attention. Let us heed Captain Ward's words and recall our own histories. Do not forget the old adage of this council, why we never fight the humans. His gaze swept across the room, settling briefly on each delegate, his eyes lingering on the humans. A hush fell over the chamber, the weight of his statement hanging in the air. The younger representatives looked puzzled, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. As the meeting adjourned, a group of these younger delegates, led by a curious Thanian named Scylla, approached Councillor Varn. They were eager to understand the cryptic warning he had issued about humans. Councillor Varn, could you explain your cautionary words about humans? Why is there such a saying? Scylla's voice was respectful, yet insistent. Varn's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled gently. Ah, young Scylla, it seems you have not been regaled with the tales of your forebears. Humans are not like other species. They possess a cunning and an adaptability that makes them unpredictable adversaries. Could you share these tales with us? Another delegate asked, their tone eager. Varn nodded sagely. Very well. Gather, and you shall hear of times when the might of humans swayed the scales in ways that ancient strategies could not foresee. Let us start with the Siege of Titan, a stark reminder of human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The young delegates listened, rapt, as Councillor Varn began his tale, each word painting a picture of past conflicts that had shaped the current understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. The vast, echoing hallways of the Galactic Council were quieter now, the meeting adjourned but its echoes still lingering in the air. A small group of young representatives, led by an eager Thanian named Scylla, approached the old historian Arix, a venerable figure known for his vast knowledge of galactic affairs. Master Arix, Scylla began, her voice tinged with curiosity. You've heard the Elder's words today. Could you enlighten us on why the Council always advises caution against engaging humans in conflict? Arix adjusted his robes, his eyes glinting with the memory of countless archives and testimonies. Ah, to understand that, you must dive deep into the annals of our histories, he replied, his voice rich with the promise of untold stories. Humans, you see, are a peculiar species, unpredictable and resourceful. Their actions in past conflicts have left indelible marks on those who dared underestimate them. Another delegate, a young Jorxian named Krell, folded his arms, his skepticism apparent. But surely they are just one species among many. What makes them so different? It's not their strength, but their ingenuity and determination in the face of adversity, Arix explained. Let me tell you about the Siege of Titan, one of the first recorded instances where human cunning turned the tide of what seemed like an inevitable defeat. The delegates gathered around, their interest piqued as Arix painted a picture of a desperate time when humanity was pushed to the brink. The Titan colony was young, isolated on Saturn's moon. When the Graxel fleet encircled Titan, their victory seemed certain. The humans had limited defenses, outnumbered and outgunned. Arix continued, his voice lowering to draw his listeners closer into the narrative. And yet, prompted a delegate from the back, drawn in by the narrative. And yet, the humans did not falter, Arix said, a note of respect threading through his words. They utilized Titan's harsh environmental conditions to their advantage. Through a series of calculated maneuvers, they turned the very ice and methane seas into traps and weapons against the Graxel. Sila's eyes widened. They used their environment as a weapon? Indeed, Arix nodded. They engineered explosions from methane pockets, created ambush points within ice caverns, and never engaged in a direct fight they could not win. Their strategy was to wear down the Graxel forces, attacking supply lines, isolating scout groups, and using the severe cold to incapacitate the enemy. Krell, his skepticism waning, leaned in. So, they saved their colony? They did more than save it, Arix affirmed. They sent a message to the galaxy that humans are not merely survivors, but formidable strategists who thrive under pressure. The Graxel fleet withdrew, having underestimated the humans' will and wit to manipulate both technology and nature. The group fell silent, reflecting on the implications of what they had heard. Sila finally broke the silence. Master Arix, could you share more? Perhaps another instance that illustrates these qualities? Arix smiled, pleased by their eagerness. Very well. Let us discuss the skirmish at Solara, where humans once again demonstrated their cunning in an entirely different manner. As Arix delved into his next tale, the young delegates listened, now fully aware that their understanding of humanity was about to deepen further, reshaping their perspectives on the potential perils of engaging with humans in conflict. The young delegates settled into their seats, captivated by Arix's tales of human ingenuity and resilience. Arix cleared his throat, preparing to dive deeper into the history that shaped the Council's cautionary stance towards humans. Let us return to the siege of Titan, Arix began, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet room. As I mentioned, the human colony on Saturn's moon was strategically insignificant, yet rich in resources, making it a tempting target for the Graxel fleet. Sila, her interest piqued, leaned forward. How did the humans manage to turn such a dire situation to their advantage? Arix nodded appreciatively at her curiosity. The humans knew they could not match the Graxel's firepower in a conventional battle. Instead, they leveraged Titan's volatile environment. They had engineers who were adept at manipulating the moon's methane lakes and icy terrain. Krell, now engrossed, asked, what exactly did they do with these environmental features? The humans set up a network of thermal mines around key resource zones and travel paths. These mines were designed to react with Titan's cold methane, creating explosive geysers when triggered, Arix explained, his hands gesturing to mimic the eruptions. A delegate from a robotic species, its optical sensors brightening, interjected, ingenious. They effectively turned the landscape into a defensive mechanism. Were there no casualties on their side? Arix shook his head slightly. They suffered losses, certainly. Each human life lost was mourned, but they understood the sacrifice necessary for survival. Moreover, they constructed hidden shelters beneath the ice, insulated against the cold and equipped with emergency supplies. Sila absorbed the information, her mind racing with the implications. So the Graxel were essentially fighting the moon itself as much as they were fighting the humans? Exactly, Arix confirmed. The Graxel, accustomed to direct and overwhelming assaults, found themselves in a quagmire. Each step forward cost them dearly, not just in resources but in morale. Human snipers, highly skilled in camouflage, were positioned to take advantage of the chaos caused by the environmental traps. Krell looked thoughtful. It sounds like the humans turned their weaknesses into strengths. They couldn't outgun their enemies, so they outsmarted them. That's precisely why we heed the old adage not to fight the humans, Arix said, his voice solemn. The siege ended after several grueling months, with the Graxel fleet retreating, having underestimated the tactical advantages conferred by Titan's harsh conditions and the humans' adaptability. The room was silent as the delegates digested the tale, each perhaps imagining how they would fare in such a scenario. Shall we continue? Arix asked, a slight smile playing on his lips as he saw their eager faces. The skirmish at Solara showcases yet another facet of human strategy, this time involving their use of biological tactics. As Arix transitioned to the next story, the delegates leaned in, ready to learn more about the complexities of human warfare and the reasons behind the Council's respect and caution regarding humanity. After a brief pause to let the details of the siege of Titan sink in, Eric's continued with his recounting of human military exploits. The group of young delegates listened intently, their views on human tactics deepening with each tale. Next, let us explore the skirmish at Solara, Eric's began, his voice carrying a hint of admiration. Solara was a lush, verdant world discovered by humans during their early explorations. Rich in biodiversity, it soon attracted the attention of other species, notably the Veltrax, who believed they could claim it for themselves. Scylla raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What made Solara so desirable? Its flora was found to contain compounds critical for advanced bioengineering, valuable to many species for medicine and technology, Eric's explained. The Veltrax decided to seize Solara from the humans, underestimating the depth of human attachment and their resourceful defense strategies. Krell, now visibly more respectful of human capabilities, leaned forward. How did the humans respond to the threat? Eric's nodded, glad to see the shift in perception. Humans, understanding their disadvantage in direct military power, turned to what they knew best: adaptation and unconventional warfare. They deployed a team of their finest biotechnologists who engineered a fast-acting, non-lethal pathogen. The pathogen, Eric's continued, was designed specifically to target the Veltrax, inducing a temporary but debilitating illness that mimicked symptoms of a common alien cold. It was harmless to other species, but incapacitated the Veltrax long enough to discourage their advances without violating interstellar laws against lethal biological warfare. The room filled with murmurs of both shock and respect. A delegate from a plant-based species, Thorna, spoke up. That seems like a risky strategy. Weren't they concerned about the pathogen mutating or spreading uncontrollably? Eric shook his head. Human scientists crafted the virus with fail-safes, genetic switches that would deactivate under certain conditions to prevent mutation or cross-species infection. It was a calculated risk, but it paid off. The Veltrax were forced to withdraw, having no counter to such a uniquely tailored biological agent. Scylla summarized thoughtfully. So, they secured their claim on Solara not through destruction, but incapacitation and intimidation. Clever, yet ethically dubious. That's often the case with human strategies, Eric said with a slight frown. Their tactics can be morally ambiguous, but they are undeniably effective. They prefer to win without widespread destruction, preserving the planet's resources and their own moral integrity, such as it is. Krell nodded slowly. It's a fine line they walk. I begin to see why you've been stressing caution in dealing with humans. Their ability to innovate under pressure and bend rules without breaking them entirely makes them unpredictable and formidable opponents. Indeed, Eric's concluded, the skirmish at Solara is just another chapter in their long history of such engagements. Shall we continue to another example, the Quantum Rebellion, where human ingenuity with emerging technologies showcased another aspect of their strategic prowess? Eager for more insights into human strategies, the delegates nodded, each now thoroughly engrossed in understanding the complexities of human military thought and the crucial reasons behind the Council's long-standing advice. Why we never fight the humans. Eric sensed the growing fascination among the young delegates as he prepared to delve into another pivotal episode that underscored human ingenuity in warfare. He adjusted his stance slightly, a storyteller ready to unveil his next tale. The Quantum Rebellion is not merely a story of conflict, Eric's began, his voice echoing with gravity in the now silent chamber. It is a testament to human creativity when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. Scylla, her interest clearly piqued, leaned in. What were the circumstances of this rebellion, Eric's? It occurred during a period of intense territorial expansion by the Kylothians, a species known for their strict control over quantum technology, Eric's explained. The Kylothians had imposed a blockade on a newly colonized human system, intending to annex it due to its rich quantum fields. Krell furrowed his brow, familiar with the strategic value of such fields. I assume the humans were not willing to give up such a valuable asset easily. Correct, Eric's nodded. The Kylothians used their advanced quantum technology to create a blockade that was thought to be impenetrable. They deployed quantum disruptors that could destabilize any standard form of propulsion, effectively trapping the human fleet. How did the humans respond? Thorna asked, intrigued by the setup. With their backs against the wall, the humans turned to their scientists and engineers. Eric's continued. Led by a brilliant physicist, Dr. Emily Stanton, they developed a countermeasure that no one had anticipated. The humans utilized a risky and untested technology known as quantum phasing. This technology allowed their ships to temporarily exist in a state of quantum flux, making them undetectable and capable of bypassing the Kylothian disruptors. The group exchanged astonished glances as they tried to grasp the implications of such technology. Scylla, thinking through the strategy, asked, "Wasn't that incredibly dangerous? The theory of quantum phasing was still largely unproven at the time, right?" "Indeed it was," Eric's affirmed. "The risks were immense. Quantum phasing could potentially lead to catastrophic malfunctions, or worse, trap ships in a state of perpetual flux. However, the humans were desperate and their gamble paid off. During what came to be known as the Quantum Leap, the human fleet reappeared unexpectedly within the Kylothian formation, bypassing the blockade entirely," Eric said, a note of respect in his voice. Caught off guard and unprepared for such a maneuver, the Kylothian forces were overwhelmed. They had no choice but to retreat and reconsider their strategy. Krell nodded slowly, his mind racing with the military applications of such technology. So the humans not only saved their colony but also advanced the entire field of quantum mechanics. "Yes," Eric's replied. "The rebellion was a turning point. It forced the Kylothians and other species to recognize the potential of human ingenuity and to treat them with newfound respect." As the delegates absorbed the story, their understanding of human capabilities deepened. Each story added layers to their perception of humans, not just as warriors, but as innovators who thrived under pressure and turned desperate situations into astounding victories. "Let us now move on," Eric suggested, seeing their eager faces. "The next story involves diplomacy and deceit, showing yet another facet of human strategy." The delegates settled in, ready for more insights into the complex and often paradoxical nature of human conflict strategies, as Eric's prepared to share the tale of diplomatic cunning that further cemented humans' reputation in the galaxy. Eric's paused for a moment, observing the captivated faces of the young delegates. He then shifted the narrative to a different kind of human engagement, one that relied more on cunning words than on the might of weapons. "Let us explore a scenario that unfolded not on the battlefield, but in the halls of diplomacy and shadows of intrigue," Eric's began, setting the stage for a different kind of human story. This tale revolves around the delicate negotiations surrounding the Treaty of Valaris, where human diplomats were pitted against multiple alien races vying for control of the mineral-rich asteroid belt of Ceres. Scylla, intrigued by the change in tactics, leaned forward. "How did humans manage to navigate such a politically charged arena?" Eric smiled slightly. "Humans have a proverb: keep your friends close and your enemies closer. In the case of the Valaris negotiations, they exemplified this by playing the roles of mediators while secretly ensuring their interests were advanced above others." Krell, his interest piqued by the strategy, asked, "What exactly did the humans do?" "The humans had a relatively weak claim to the Ceres belt compared to others," Eric's explained. "However, they leveraged their position as neutral mediators to broker deals and alliances between smaller, less influential races, gradually increasing their own influence. The key to their strategy," Eric's continued, "was their ability to sow seeds of doubt among the larger, more dominant races. They discreetly spread information, some true, some exaggerated, about the military ambitions of their rivals, pitting them against each other." Scylla frowned slightly, her sense of fairness challenged. "That sounds manipulative. Did they not consider the ethical implications?" "Indeed, it was manipulative," Eric's acknowledged, his voice serious. "And yes, humans do consider ethics, but in this instance, their priority was securing a strategic advantage. They viewed it as a necessary tactic to maintain balance and prevent any one race from becoming too dominant." Krell nodded, understanding the pragmatic approach. "So, what was the outcome of these negotiations?" "The end result was a fractious but ultimately equitable treaty," Eric's recounted. "No single race gained full control over Ceres, but all received some access to its resources. The humans, through their network of alliances, managed to secure the most lucrative mining rights, positioned as they were as the linchpins of the agreement." Thorna, reflecting on the story, commented, "It seems humans are adept at both war and peace, using whatever means necessary to ensure their survival and prosperity." "That is an astute observation," Eric's agreed. "Humans excel at adapting to the circumstances, whether in open conflict or subtle diplomacy. They understand the power of information and alliances as much as the power of technology and arms." "As we can see," Eric's concluded, "their successes in these arenas caution us against underestimating them, not just for their martial prowess, but also for their diplomatic cunning." The delegates sat back, their views on humanity enriched and complicated by the stories. They were beginning to understand the layered complexity of human strategies and why the Galactic Council so often preached caution in dealings with humans. "Shall we continue?" Arix asked, ready to share yet another facet of human interaction that would further illuminate their unpredictable nature in galactic affairs. As the stories unfolded, the group of young delegates around Arix became more reflective, their initial skepticism replaced by a cautious respect for human capabilities. Arix, sensing their readiness to absorb deeper lessons, continued his narrative. "Let us now consider what these stories teach us," Arix said, his voice taking on a mentor's tone. "Each of these episodes from human history provides not just a tale of survival or victory, but a blueprint of human adaptability and strategic thinking." Scylla, her curiosity ever present, was the first to respond. "It seems that humans are always thinking several steps ahead, regardless of the situation. Whether using their environment, technology, or information, they manage to find leverage." "Exactly." Arix nodded approvingly. "Humans have a unique capacity to turn disadvantages into advantages. This ability stems from their diverse and often challenging history on their home planet, where they faced and overcame numerous natural and self-created adversities." Krell, his earlier skepticism all but vanished, added, "Their strategies also show a profound understanding of their adversaries. They study behaviors, weaknesses, and even cultural aspects deeply, which allows them to devise highly effective, sometimes unexpected strategies." Arix smiled, pleased with Krell's insight. "Indeed, understanding the enemy is at the core of human strategy. This is a lesson that many species learn too late, often underestimating humans' resolve and cunning." Thorna, who had been listening intently, raised a point. "But isn't there a danger in their methods? Their willingness to manipulate and exploit can stir distrust among potential allies and partners." "That is a valid concern," Arix conceded, nodding at Thorna. "Humans are sometimes viewed with suspicion and caution because of their tactical flexibility and moral ambiguity. Their history is punctuated with alliances made and broken, a testament to their pragmatic approach to diplomacy and warfare." Scylla reflected on this, her expression thoughtful. "So, while their strategies are effective, they also create a landscape where humans must continuously navigate the repercussions of their actions." "Yes, that is the paradox of human interaction," Arix elaborated. "Their survival tactics can isolate them as much as they secure their position. It is why relationships with humans require careful management, and why the Galactic Council often steps in to mediate." Krell looked around at the other delegates, a new understanding dawning on him. "This discussion makes it clear why the Elder Council member warned us about engaging humans in conflict. The risk isn't just about losing a battle, but underestimating a complex opponent who plays by different rules." Arix leaned back, his eyes scanning the group. "And that brings us to the core lesson here. When dealing with humans, expect innovation, but prepare for unpredictability. Their history is not just a collection of victories, but a series of strategic evolutions that many find challenging to counter effectively." The delegates nodded, each processing the layers of human strategy discussed. Scylla, taking a deep breath, summed up the sentiment of the group. "I think we all have a lot to consider about how we approach humans in the future, whether in conflict or cooperation." "Indeed you do," Arix concluded with a slight smile. "Remember these lessons well. They may very well shape the future interactions your species will have with humans." As the meeting disbanded, the delegates left with a new appreciation for the complexities of human behavior. Each story, each lesson had reshaped their understanding and prepared them for the nuanced dance of interstellar diplomacy. The old adage of the Galactic Council echoed in their minds: "Why we never fight the humans." Not just a warning, but a call to approach with respect and caution. The impact of Arix's stories and discussions reverberated through the minds of the young delegates as they reconvened in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Armed with a deeper understanding of human capabilities and history, they felt a renewed sense of responsibility. Today they would propose a resolution that could redefine interspecies relations. As the session began, the council president invited submissions for new initiatives. Scylla stood, her posture confident and her voice clear, reflecting her new grasp of the intricate dance of diplomacy she had learned about from Arix. "Esteemed members of the council," Scylla began, her voice echoing in the vast chamber, "over the past days, we have engaged in deep reflection and discourse about our stance and strategy towards humanity. We've come to recognize the depth of their strategic thinking their resilience, and their unique approach to both conflict and alliance. Murmurs filled the chamber as delegates adjusted in their seats, intrigued by the young Thanian's assertive start. Thus, she continued, we propose a new resolution today, to engage with humanity not through confrontation but through strengthened diplomatic ties and cultural exchanges. We believe this approach will not only prevent conflicts but also enrich our own civilizations with diverse perspectives and innovations. Krell rose to support her statement, his tone earnest. Human history teaches us that underestimating them or engaging in direct conflict without understanding their ingenuity and adaptability leads to unintended consequences. Instead, let us draw on their strengths and integrate them into our collective efforts for a more stable galaxy. The council president nodded, his expression thoughtful as he surveyed the assembly. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this proposal? A brief silence followed. Then a delegate from an older, more conservative species stood up. While I appreciate the spirit of this resolution, we must proceed with caution. Humans are known for their unpredictability. How can we ensure that this approach will not backfire? Scylla responded with a calm she had honed during the intense discussions with Arix. That is a valid concern. However, through close cooperation and ongoing dialogue, we can build trust and mutual respect, reducing the chances of missteps. Moreover, by engaging humans in constructive projects and peace initiatives, we harness their creativity and deter potential conflicts. The council president called for a vote. One by one, the delegates cast their votes, the majority showing support for the new approach. The resolution was passed with significant approval, marking a turning point in galactic policy towards Earth. As the delegates exited the chamber, Captain Jameson Ward, who had been observing quietly from the sidelines, approached Scylla and Krell. Thank you for your trust and for seeing beyond past conflicts, he said, offering a hand in friendship. It is we who should thank you, Scylla replied, accepting his handshake. Your history has much to teach us all. As the young delegates dispersed, there was a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. They had not only contributed to a potentially more peaceful galaxy, but it also set the stage for a future where human ingenuity could be a beacon for innovation and unity rather than a source of fear and division. This chapter of the Galactic Council closed with hope and a commitment to a new, collaborative future, inspired by the lessons learned from humanity's past.